party people, welcome back to MVM, and today I'm here with a pretty dang on big review. I'm supposed to be by myself. It's a solo game I'm reviewing, but I'm going to have a whole bunch of people with me today. We're going to do another deep dive into a game. It is Hoplomachus Victorum by Chip Theory Games. I'm just going to say up front, we all love Chip Theory Games. We all sent copies of this game, so that is your disclaimer for this video. But we're going to give it all a fair review, and without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest today. We have Alex from Board Game Co. We have Elizabeth Davison from Beyond Solitaire, and we have Mike, which I had on for our last review for Burn Cycle from One Stop Co-op Shop.
Hey, hey.
All right, and today we are talking about Hoplomachus Victorum, the one-player game where you take on the role of a hero and you're on an epic adventure. So to kick this off, I'm going to cut off to a couple little videos today to kind of give you some ideas, but this will be mostly pictures that you can see during during this thing. Timestamps will be below, but let's dig into the first topic, which is the journey. Gamers, heroes, welcome to your journey in Hoplomachus Victorum. You are going to start with one of the 8 heroes in the game, and you're going to be facing off ultimately at the end against one of the 8 scions, if you can survive. Along the way, you'll be playing through 4 acts, and each act is 12 weeks long. You are basically preparing yourself and your squad for the eventual epic combat. And at the end of each of the 12 weeks, you will fight a Primus. And the Primus is sort of like a boss, one of the characters that you didn't choose. You're going to be facing off against 3 of them through your course of your journey. But it's up to you to recruit the right people, gain the right tactics, develop yourself on this little pad here as you move around. And hopefully you get to that moment, the big moment in the middle in the capital where you're fighting at the Vesuvius and you're fighting on this mat that I have right here, and you're fighting off against a big bad. It could be Pluto, it could be Calliope, it could be a Hydra, many more. There's going to be different ones in there. There's 8 to choose from. But what does that look like? So you're going to be traveling across this map, and you'll start wherever you are from. So you'll be moving around, and each week you will move into an event. You can sit and watch that event and spectate, which has some adverse effects to it. You can run into an opportunity. When you run into an opportunity, these are cards that you get. They will help unlock different things. I'm not going to spoil that stuff for you. Or you could have sporting events, and those can be like sparring. They could be King of the Hill. They could be capture the flag, different things like that. And there's even more strategy in that, which we'll get to in the tactics version, tactics segment. But that's pretty much your journey. You're going to be doing all this, trying to prepare yourself, trying not to die, trying not to use your blessings so you don't die. But man, the end of this game that is so epic, and we're going to talk about that as we go along, but that is a synopsis of the journey. So when we talk about the journey, we're going to be talking about how this is all broken up, the acts, moving across the map. We're talking about just everything, the events, all the things that you're going to have in your journey. Now, starting with the act, the kind of just developing your character along the way. How'd you feel about the character development? Liz?
Mostly I really like it. It felt kind of video gamey. Yeah. I like to get new goodies and like make my character sheet look better over time. It's definitely something that appeals. So I definitely spent a lot of time thinking about like, hey, if I do this kind of event, what kind of reward can I get? Because each different event type like has a different reward for it. And you know, I got a real kick out of it. I will say there are a lot of events to go through because each act is quite lengthy. So this is a commitment. This is not something where you're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to play through this all tonight. It'll be fine. I'll go to bed on time. Like,
well, I sort of did. I sort of did.
You go to bed on time?
No, I didn't get to bed on time. I just kind of started just playing and kept playing. That's all there was to it. I just kind of kept playing. I didn't get much rest the first 2 nights I had it. Yeah, days later. No, I agree though. It's very video gamey. You are, you're trying to build up your hearts like Zelda, right? You're trying to build up your leadership so you have a better squad. But you also get the choices along the way. Like, how do I upgrade? How do I grab tactics? Do I take this troop with me? Do I, skip events so I don't have to deal with any of this stuff right now? But there's a trade-off for that as well. So how did you feel about that overall, just the journey as a whole, moving across the map? We kind of just talking about the character development. Mike, can you kind of talk about what it feels like to go through these acts and eventually fight maybe the Primuses in the game?
Yeah, so the actual movement itself is pretty interesting because if you're playing the game well, you kind of want to sort of pre-plan a bit of your journey because you know where the bosses are on this like wide world map. And again, if you're being smart about it, which I often have not been, as I played a bit like, whoops, I guess I have to spectate for 3 weeks in a row and let the enemies get a billion banes because I'm an idiot. But I do like kind of the strategy there. There is, I'll go back to what Liz said about having the video game feel. A negative side of that is like it does have the potential to feel a little bit grindy, especially sometimes when I'm circling around the same like arena for a little while. It gets a little bit into a grind. It's going to kind of depend on how much you enjoy those battles, but the actual ramp up of the act structure I think is fantastic. And really, what I'll say to a lot of people is I think the game reaches its true epicness after Act 1.
Yes.
Because I think the battles are so much easier in Act 1, and just that addition of more enemy tactics and more enemy units just filling the battlefield, Act 2 on. I didn't feel like the ramp up from Act 1 to Act 2 was as big. Or sorry, I felt like that was the biggest change. From 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 didn't feel like as big of like kind of a sea change in the tactics. But yeah, I think like kind of like charting your path and then figuring out where the Primus is. And I know we're going to talk about the boss fights later, but the actual Primus battles themselves are often very challenging and very epic. I've had a few where like the nice thing is you can see what their abilities are from the outset.
Right, so you know what you're preparing for.
Yeah,
you know?
so I've had a few times where like I would get agile that lets me do a special attack instead of a regular attack, and suddenly a lot of their defensive skills don't apply as much anymore. Like I've had a few easier battles like that, but often those boss battles are very epic, and it all kind of comes together with that journey leading to it. So I think it's a good voyage, but again, there is some grind in there sometimes.
I was going to say just about like just traveling across the map. I'm going to be honest with you. I love the journey and I like grinding in games. Sometimes we like the video gamey part, but we don't like the video gamey part, right? Like I love, tactical RPGs. You got to fight the same fights. You got to fight the same type of events. You got to do that part. And I often do find that people kind of use it as a knock on games. I know I'm thinking of Tainted Grail when I think of this. Like, it's too much grinding. I'm like, well, then how are you supposed to get powerful? You got to fight the same crappy dudes in the area for a little while, right? But this is the same idea. Sometimes you got to take on the events you don't want to take, and because you want to recruit these troops in this area. You are recruiting more troops in this area, not only for yourself, but you're recruiting more troops in the area because you don't want to fight maybe that boss with all the local troops. You want to have those mostly for yourself, to give yourself an advantage. So I kind of figured that out a little bit along the way. I was like, maybe I want more local troops from here so that they have less for them, that kind of thing like that. So I want to get into a little bit more about the choices of events you have. So in this game, you're going to have the opportunity to look at the people in front of you that you could potentially fight, whether you're going to have these different events in there. I kind of showed the journey of this. I'll kind of go throughout the review. You'll see these in the videos. But Alex, what do you think about the events that actually can occur in the game? The opportunities, the games you can play, and then the just flat out bloodshed that goes on.
So overall, the variety of events they have sort of drives your journey. Like Mike was saying about charting your pathway out, it's not just about the pure time in the game, it's also about what type of things you want to go. Because each of them offers their own different reward that will appeal to different people in different ways, going to what Liz said about the whole video game event. Do you just want to keep upping your stat dice? Do you want to get a few opportunities because those cards are super cool and they actually make your hero really feel unique? Or, do you want to engage what I personally find the most interesting, which is I like the challenge of the capture the flags and the king of the hills, because those give you an opportunity that not just where we can and kill the local champion, but you're trying to navigate in a way that's not purely about the bloodshed. It's not purely about fights to the death, which gives an interesting challenge to it. I think there's a decent amount of variety to them, and in true chip theory fashion, like each card has their own small spin in it, which is less than you might expect from if you're used to like a Too Many Bones type of event. It's less complicated while still managing to give it a bit of a feel. I think that I liked the general variety as a starting baseline. I like the opportunities as a starting baseline. I would have potentially liked to see a bit more complexity on some of the things. Like there's giant stacks of cards, and some of them are like really cool things. Like there's one where you're just fighting with a single unit, but he has like 10 health.
Yes.
It's a fun little challenge of like how do you pivot around that. And then some of them have felt a little boring or possibly not necessarily balanced, as far as some might feel a little too easy or a little too hard.
Sure.
I like the general variety and the way they added complexity to it. But yeah, would love to see more of that as well.
Well,
although the only thing I'll say to that though is I do appreciate that. I think with Hoplomachus, I probably won't have to have my phone or my computer handy. I love Too Many Bones, but every time I play Too Many Bones, I'm like, okay, and this encounter, what the heck did this rule actually mean?
Yeah,
Whoops,
exactly.
And now this encounter, what does this rule mean?
Yeah.
So, complexity is great. Too much can sometimes...
No, it's a fair point. That's a fair point, because not a single card in Hoplomachus yet have I had that moment where I'm pausing and questioning. Like in Too Many Bones, especially because they give you that choice, sometimes you just choose the thing that you understand. You're like, I don't want to look this up. I'll just choose what I understand.
That's so true.
And in Hoplomachus, not a single point have I had that complexity. It comes with the trade-off, which is why I'm here, I guess, going to what Jeremy said about how we want the grind and we don't want the grind. It's the same thing with complexity. I want the benefit and the reward of a complex environment, but I don't want to struggle to get there.
I was going to say, like, for events, for me, I think the journey can be long at times. I may also target specific events because I'm just kind of better at that with my squad. But to me, that's strategy. Like, that's like, hey, you know, like, I might actually not want to have a bloodshed event, but I want to have a spar event so I know I can survive it. But my squad is pretty heavy on the attack. Or I'm going to go in short stack, so I got 2 guys who can taunt, you know, and I got I got one that has deflect or whatever. So I have all these, like, it's like heavy retaliate. Oh, there's an opportunity that says if I beat people with retaliate, then I get that opportunity, and that unlocks my deck, and I'm like, oh yeah. So there's a lot of little small things that I was like, oh, this is really clicking with me. And also how you develop your character based on some of that stuff, like taking those opportunities, and that unlocks your character. By the way, some wacky opportunity chips in there. Some of these things, I have no idea what they're for. Like, there's one that I got, there's a guy, he does not attack. Doesn't attack. I think he just retaliates. He just retaliates. And I'm like, all right, walk forward. like Groot or something. I don't know, but whatever. I got one event where I think like if I hit the person, the last person I hit, I lose a health. It was like blood something. I can't remember what it was called. I was like, I don't want this. You know, like this kind of stuff. So there's all these
where you can just like insta kill a person and you have to take some degree of hit.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was something like I'm like, I don't think I want this, but anyways.
Probably Elliot can be dangerous. Like, I got careless and I put an attacker like too close to the tribune in one of those like capture the flags, and there's just an auto and I was like,
yes. Yes. Well, we're going to dig into that a little bit more in the tactics, because that's part of the combat that I'm talking about. The things you have to consider and things you get stuck in the tactics. So let's talk about it on the other side. This is just a quick sample of how the tactics play out here, or just a round of the game in Hoplomachus Victorum. I want to show you my turn, but I also want to give you an idea of what goes on here, because each one of the 8 mats in this game has some kind of different way the games will play out. Especially if you are familiar with Origins, Hoplomachus Origins, you would know kind of how this stuff works. You got the King of the Hill stuff where you're going to be trying to run from one side to the other. Well, on each mat, it's going to play out different because of how the skills or the things play out with the AI and all that. It's all going to be on this card. I'm actually with the Atlanteans right now, so I'm going to be able to throw a trident and do some automatic damage. Now I'm going to show you my turn here. Everything's based off this card, so you'll have a roster starting with 1 local troop, so I have 1 local guy here, and then the rest will be drawn from this bag, so at random. The conditions for victory, the conditions that will help me or hinder me will be on here, so it makes things more complicated or things easier. I start out with the deployment phase on my turn, and what that means is I can bring in someone into my team on there, and they will come in dazed. Some characters have abilities that will allow them to move right away. I used to play with a character that could do that, but generally they're stuck there until their next round. Next up is tactics. Some of these tactics will, you can add them to your characters as long as they're not elite like you are, but they can stun people, they can give them extra health, things of that nature, so they kind of change things up. There's even a character called a tactician that can basically put these on anybody with range. So there's definitely some ways that plays out, other than, oh, I'm right next to that guy, shoot that on him. Then you have your movement. So I'm gonna go ahead and just move these guys into the position I want. My movement will be on my my pad here, also my health, all my dice pool and things of that nature. I'm gonna go ahead and move, actually this one I'm gonna move 1, 2, so I can pick up that trident. Yes. Next up is the abilities phase. Now each character has abilities written on their chip. Mine are actually going to be on these cards that I have that I'm going to be gaining as I complete opportunities. These opportunity cards, which will tell me to go in there and pick from my deck or a special hero prowess deck. So I actually happen to have this ability called Fury, where I can hit people within a certain range that is placed on there. My Fury is 1, so I've already got them down to 1 health. The last part is the engage step, and that's when we start chucking these wonderful dice, and Chip Theory happened to send me some of these nice weighted dice, but the dice are awesome in this game. I'm going to be looking at that chip, and I'm going to be throwing exactly what it says, but I'm going to be using what was used in this specific map and throw my trident at this guy right here, and it's going to knock him out. All right, so he's out of there. Boom, automatic 2 damage, because it says so on the card. Then we have me. I'm going to chuck my dice pool at them, which is 3 blue. I'm going to roll the dice. Hopefully I get these hits because it's an example. And then that guy dies as well. So we kill both of these people. And each one of these dice has a different hit amount. This one has 2. This one has 3. This one has 4. This one 5, and then this red one, usually chucked by the tactician, has 6 hits. It's full on just hit. Now these are things that you do. You upgrade your dice during the game, and after combat is over, you may be able to upgrade yourself and leadership, or you may be able, if you're playing the games, to take one of these chips with you and add it to your team. But that's just kind of a little bit of a taste of the tactics and things that play out in this game. Let's get back to the panel and talk about the tactics of Hoplomachus Victorum. All right, so that was a little bit of explanation of the tactics, but now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the combat, and that's starting with just the maps as a whole. You're going to be moving around these different regions, and as you move around them, not only are the troops going to change, but so are the maps. So let's just talk about the different maps. Matter of fact, what was your favorite map and why? Like, I happen to like the Chariot. Actually, no, I like the monolith ones where the monolith things move across back and forth.
That's fine, yeah.
That was nuts. That was absolutely nuts. When I read that card for the first time, I was like, I'm going to get this all wrong, but I'm going to enjoy it. Okay? Like, this is so cool. And I think I had a King of the Hill event too, so it was like, just everything's moving everywhere. I'm like, wrong or right, I'm enjoying this, okay? Like, wrong or right, I am enjoying this. But yeah, I found that most of the maps are pretty good. I actually found the boss one, the Vesuvius one, I found that the least interesting. I lose 1 health. Like, but there's a lot more to deal with. But at the same time, I found that one not as interesting, but it does make sense. There's another one, I think, with the weapons rack that gets an extra die. Yes. That one I didn't find as interesting as well because, I mean, honestly, there's certain situations where you can just stand on that, and if you're already pretty good, pretty good on the attack dice, you're just whopping, destroying everybody. And also, those troops aren't that great either. The local troops for them are not that great. So I just found that area not so awesome. I can't remember what area it is, but I was like, these locals aren't that awesome. They're kind of general, and that map is just not as interesting.
I think
what was your favorite map?
Isn't that the new Argonauts, the weapons one?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
My favorite.
Mike, go ahead. What was your favorite? Yeah.
Yeah. So mine was between. I guess I like animals. Mine was between the Chariot because I think it had the most dynamic, consistent movement, especially with the enemies jumping on and off and on and off.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. But then I think I would slightly edge that out with Pluto's Refugees, the animal combat one where they're attacking, friend and foe. And that might be nostalgia because I really enjoy the old Hoplomachus, and that's how, like the beasts in the original and that stuff. I just think that's tons of fun. But yeah, anytime I could. I can move my pieces around such that their person got eaten by a lion. That's a good time for me. You know what I mean?
That's a good time. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm not sure I'm playing that one right at all, but I enjoy that one too. I don't know. I was like, just attack everybody. Just whatever. Who's closest? Attack.
I personally like the map where you're popping onto the top there, so you can get those perfect strikes. If you time those well, I found that was a lot of fun to be able to just get the right characters, the right leveled up dice, pick their poison, and you just feel like you're a beast taking things out. And I agree with you completely on the weapons rack. While in theory I was actually probably the most intrigued by that one the first time I read it, in execution I found it kind of ended up being very static, very little movement, just walking on and hitting each other with no real interesting plays.
Yeah, I like the idea of being like, oh, like, hey, we got to fight, we got to move, and we're moving slow. And then I was like, so then if I pound them pretty hard, they get kicked back to the beginning, and I'm like, I don't know, like it does, it's not climactic, you know. It's like, you know, and you always seem to find a way to win on that one. I don't know why. I always seem to win that one. So I'm like,
well, that's why it's the best map, Jerry.
I know.
Exactly. Just like that was the best. You know, I really like the Chariot one, and I actually did love that Beast for the same reason. I was like, oh, this feels like it's like going home. But you know, even the simpler arenas have a lot of charm. Like, I actually really like the one in Atlantis with the Trident. Because I love that it gets you an auto hit of 2.
Yep.
But then the enemy gets it if they're still
they
alive.
Get it.
And,
they get it.
King of the Hill extra fun.
Yeah.
Because
you got to hold it.
The King of the Hill spot moves based on the Trident. And if the Tribune for the other side picks up the Trident, you're in trouble.
Yes.
You're in so much trouble because you can't kill them to get it. So then how are you?
Yeah.
So, you know, there's like a whole lot of really, even in the simpler setups, right? There's a lot to think about because of the way that even just normal battle is built.
Yeah, and going off of Alex's, because I think you were talking about the central platform one, right, Alex?
Yeah.
I also like I think it was the Lemosians, where it's like the steps going up.
Yes, the steps
going up. That one's a lot of fun, you know, and like, do you rush as fast as you can to get the high ground before they do, or you just like let them come to you? Like, I don't know. I think any of the ones that really incentivize immediate movement are usually the best, although the weapons rack kind of fails in that regard. And that's, Jeremy, why I would totally agree with you that the Vesuvian one is probably the weakest for me, just because I don't have any reason generally to not I'll just stay on my starting spot. Like, I'll move off so I can bring more people in. Besides that, come to me. Oh, combined arms, you're dead.
If you
want to come too? Dead.
If you have the Parthian archer, you just you gotta sit back. Just sit back, bang, bang. You know, like, and if you have an archer with them, it's like he's got 1 health, I'm right here, bang, 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 bang. And like, they're pretty much getting knocked off unless they have a tactic chip. So speaking of tactics, the actual combat. So I talked about the combat in the little video there and you know, just kind of the cycle of it. Let's just talk about tactic chips, banes, actual nitty gritty of the dice chucking and stuff like that. Now, how do you feel about the bane part of this? Like, you're adding these banes to the bag. You're going to be adding these chips to the bag over the time. They're going to come out to your camps. They're going to come out and affect combat. How do you feel about that mechanic as a whole?
Well, I like it. I think it's good variety. I think it is like an oh heck like moment whenever you draw one, so it adds like some more tension to certain fights. The one complaint I had in my review, and this is not just the banes, but this is kind of how it comes out, is that I do wish there was more uniqueness to whichever scion you've picked as your final boss.
Yes.
Y'all know how in Too Many Bones, like, you get encounters for that boss. They determine what types of enemies you're facing the entire time. They might have like ongoing abilities. And here it's like I get one bane, it's the first one, and how many of you didn't get rid of that with an opportunity like 2 rounds later? I was like, oh, you make everyone have more
bane.
health. Yeah,
okay.
Remember Bane, gone. Like, I fully, like, it was so funny. I went through the rulebook. I was like, well, clearly there's a rule in here that is going to say that the Scion Banes are immune from that effect. Of course, that must be a rule, because that would make perfect sense. And they didn't have it. I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
But besides that, I really like the Banes. I think it is fun, like the variety they bring.
You need something bad to be happening to you. You can't just level up unopposed all the way through. It makes sense, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Overall, just having that oh screw you moment when you pull it from the bag, it also adds a nice degree of hope every time you're setting up a combat. That idea of like, okay, great, well, I'm going to set this up, but like also my hero's a little low. I decided not to like just rest to the next event, and so I think I should be fine. And then before you know it, you draw 2 banes, and you're like,
and then you're like,
this
oh
was
my
not
gosh.
the match. The match was full. I feel safe. So like, I like that effect in particular. It's not even necessarily the effect of the bane on its own. Like, the effect is as bad as some arena events. It's almost that moment of just, oh, this is an extra hard battle, and you just don't know when it's going to hit you.
The cannons are annoying too, though. Like the ones like where you can't, where it takes up space in your roster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
There's some
I
really.
think, what I really like about the Banes we didn't mention this too much, but I really appreciate how Chip Theory made things so transparent in a lot of cases. Like, you know where the bosses are the entire dang campaign. You know where you need to be. You can see what abilities they have. Not only am I picking which event I'm doing, but I see the exact enemy at the front that's going to be the first person spawning in that event, and how tough is that going to be for me to deal. So I like that as the campaign progresses, like Alex said, that sense of surety, that confidence goes away a little bit. It's like, yeah, I should be able to beat this battle. Oh my god, what is that person doing here? You know, like, just throw it off your calculus entirely.
And this game does ramp up. So we, like, kind of in the journey stuff, you're going to have, when you get to the second act, you're going to add another troop, and it's going to have a tactic. You get to the, the next round, you're going to be adding more elements, and the bosses, the Primuses, increase in health and their roster, and you may have less roster, that kind of thing like that. So there's different elements going in, and so do the cards. The cards are going to set you up with less roster to be able to fight these things off. Now, when we get to the combat is Hoplo combat. Now, if you haven't, played Hoplomachus, and I showed you the video, you never seen it, it's pretty easy to resolve turns and things like that. But what did you think about the nitty gritty? I think specifically, probably just the abilities. Did you feel like the abilities were any bit better than Hoplomachus, the original, or where there's not enough variety? Did you have any problems processing any of them? I'll be honest with you, I thought it was darn near perfect. I honestly, if I play Hoplomachus, I love it. I like to chuck dice. I like that I can level up my dice during the journey, so I can decide how awesome I want to be. Like, hey, I want to make sure, as what's her name, Stigil with the 2 daggers. Like, I had her first strike running in. Like, I had 3. I think I had 3 green dice and 1 yellow. I mean, I was just. So I was ready to go. Whoever was a 3 health or below was done. Okay, like, they were done. So
I can't speak. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, but I can't. Go ahead. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I can't speak for the original Hoplomachus. I have played it. It's been a very long time. But in terms of the abilities, I think I loved what they had. And going back to conversation we've already had, I love the simplicity and yet depth what they had. I thought it was a great combination. I would have liked to see a bit more. I feel like, there's a huge ability sheet, but for the most part, you're seeing the same ones repeated a lot, and then some degree of variety on the rest. And I think I would have liked to see a drop more consistent variety in the types of things there to make that experience a drop more variable. And this is a point we'll hit more upon at different points, and Mike's touched upon it a little bit. We've all touched upon it a little bit, the grindy nature. My biggest pet peeve about the entire experience, an experience I overall love, is that I wish sometimes, because of how many comments they are and because of how repetitive they are, I wish sometimes it felt more different. And I would have loved to see even like 4 or 5 more consistent abilities spread amongst units could have made things just totally shift as far as not falling into that repetitive pattern. Okay, great. I have my system, I have my tactics, I have my units, and I know how I'm going to deal with the retaliate units. I know I'm going to deal with the taunt units. I know how I'm going to deal with the combination of taunt plus aura. And like, you have those systems in play, and it was great. I absolutely love it. I think it's an amazing core set. This is definitely a game where I want a full-on expansion where every one of those areas gets like twice as many units with new abilities in play.
Right. I feel like that's coming. Like, that seems like something that would be feedback right now. And I feel like they kind of loaded it up with a good, 20, 30 different abilities, and they're easy to resolve. Maybe it's because they're easy to resolve and we're used to a little bit more tactical combat from, a little bit heavier on the skills and stuff like that. But you got to understand, Hoplomachus was loaded up with a lot of content, with extra beasts, extra clans, all that stuff. For a base setup with this amount of different, 8 different factions, I'm okay. Like, I'm okay.
Oh, absolutely.
But I also like to know how to resolve turns and not be in the book the whole time. The fact that I have this card right here and it's very clear, I asked 2 questions and I was good to go because I wanted to find out the difference between a skill and an attack. And I had this attack and I was like, yeah, buddy, I can no retaliate for me. So just go to pound. So yeah, go ahead.
I would say I do like it. I think that one of the biggest complaints about original Hoplo, and it wasn't wrong, right, is that the individual units between factions were not different enough all the time.
No.
I do think that a lot of progress got made towards that. So, I want the Parthian archer, not the generic archer. I want the, there's definitely certain people when they come up, you're like, yes, I got to recruit this one. And I kind of appreciate the abilities weren't too crazy. Because I'm still, so I don't know if this is true for y'all, I'm still making a lot of like small errors in
Oh, yeah.
play.
Yeah.
It's a chip theory game, Liz.
It's a
I will,
chip
I will
theory game,
forever
right?
make
Yeah.
a few small errors every time I play.
Who doesn't knock off an extra chip or slide? I think that ability does that. I don't know. I don't know.
Yes.
Whatever.
But I also think you can't get too much more complicated without adding a lot to the mental load of the game.
Yes.
So
Yes.
like they have to dance that line because I don't want to be in the book all the time either. And I'm working through those gear locks right now still, so like I know what the far end of this looks like.
Bless you on your journey. Can't wait for that lab rats.
It's coming. It's coming.
Now, the lab rats aren't that bad. It's Boar Riding Lady, whatever her.
Dart. Oh, God. I love
But
her.
yeah, something I really want to compliment chip theory on, and actually it's something that I think makes me less concerned about what you just said, Liz, like the idea of like being in the book and more in line with what Alex said, like excited for expansions, excited for more complex abilities, is that this is the first time that I like showed Peter, my co-designer and podcast co-host, a chip theory game, and he was like, wait, I don't have to worry about any keywords until like that bag's been filled with a bunch of extra units. Like there's one enemy that has a keyword and that's it. And then like 2 and 3, it is such a lovely gradual build. So even if they add in like 20 more keywords and they're really complex keywords, I'm only learning about maximum 1 new keyword generally a battle. You know what I mean? Like I'm not worried about expansion stuff. Because I personally, throw me another Cloudspire faction, I'll eat that stuff up. I'll like dream about the combinations and stuff. But most people, I'm like, well, you might not want to buy. That's one of my that's my top chip theory game, and it's also the one I recommend the least. I'm like, maybe don't play that because it's gonna melt your brain, man.
I can't. We're not. This is not a Cloudspire review, but I can't recommend it just because I need to know how all in you are. Like, I need to know how all in you. But it's a great game. It's a great game. It's a great game, but it is a hard one to recommend to someone. As exciting as it is, as exciting as it is.
And I do think this is the most accessible chip theory games from the big box games. Like,
I said that about Burn Cycle. This is way more. Like way more. I was like, whoa. Like this is how you get up and running. And a lot of chip theory gamers, I assume, are solo gamers because they make a lot of the games from solo starting up, right? And I think this one, you're going to know how to do your turns. You may get a rule or two wrong. You may have to reread your card a little bit more. And, but you will get through turns. You will get through turns. I bet you if you watched a 5-minute video on how to take a turn that Logan has made, you'd be like, oh, I get it. And you can be off and running. You can cheat a little bit and have a good time.
Especially one of the best things about the game too, though, is like what a luxury. Like we talk about being in the golden age of solo gaming, but like it is so cool to have such a premier, big, fancy game that's just for solo. It's like getting a birthday cake and you get to eat the whole thing, but you don't.
Yeah, man.
And for those
it's a $150 birthday cake, though.
Yes, it is.
It
Quite
tastes real
expensive
good,
birthday
but it
cake.
is.
And for those worried, there likely will be expansion content. I mean, first of all, it's games in general, and second of all, I'm sure all of you picked up on that. Speaking of that animal arena, where they're like, pick any 2 animals.
Yep. And I was like, I only have 2.
There's only 2.
Where's the rest?
So to round this out, I just want to talk about bosses. So now you've reached the end of Act 4, and you are at the point where you've shown up in the Vesuvian capital here, and you are ready to fight the main boss, your scion that you've been preparing for. Right here, I have the crocodile one called Itzam Kanbane. I don't know how to say it. I tried to say it. But what you're going to do is assess how many of these banes that you've had during the game. These go into your bag as you do more spectating in the game. You could potentially have these in here. They mess with you during the game, but guess what? They are detrimental to you when you get to the end game because it's going to make these bosses stronger. Now you have blessings that if you didn't use a lot of them, you can pull these out of the bag. So it's one of the strategies in the game. Now, the more of these you have, the more dice that get added to their dice pool. So now you got a lot more things to deal with. And as you can see, the dice pool was already pretty crazy already by itself. And now I'm adding all those dice. Now, don't be completely scared here. Ooh, yes, you should be, because that was a really nasty roll. So you're going to be rolling these dice. And as you get these kind of things to resolve, this will actually tell you how they move, how they attack, what kind of things do they do and prepare for because of this. So it's not just hit, hit, hit. It's actually telling you that this is going to be movement. And it may, this one here, he'll smack you around and take off chips just by moving through you. So he's just like, and just knocking you around. But also as he matches certain things up, he will gain more armor. So he, not only will you be hitting him, you have to knock down this to get more armor off of him. So it's just one of those little things just to kind of give you an idea what's going on. You have Calliope who plays her harp and switches people that are your squad to her squad. You have Pluto, which I'm just not even going to touch on. You have the Hydra with the 4 heads. There's all these different characters in here with some really cool abilities, but I'm going to save that for you if you decide to get a copy of Hoplomachus. Let's get back to the panel. So there's bosses in this game. I don't know which one you faced off of. I faced the alligator one that's like, it's a bomb bam. I have no idea what the name is. It's a Mama Bane. They really like broke up words for these bosses. How am I supposed to pronounce these? I'm a reviewer. I can't do that. I'm sorry. I don't know that language. But I faced off against a boss. I just gonna call it the bat. I'm just gonna call it the alligator, the beautiful lady, and Pluto. So Pluto and the gang. Anyway, but I faced off against the crocodile. The crocodile has a die that goes on top of it. And it gains scales, and then it smacks you across. With movement, it smacks your people across the thing. It is pretty epic. It wasn't as hard as I thought, but it gave me an idea of like, hey, this is how these things work. I mean, it goes back to that Bane pressure in the game. So if you're not getting rid of those, or you have to sacrifice your blessings, you're gonna have a tough battle on your hands. And I felt that, but thankfully I was strong enough to get through it, because in some battles you don't get to bring all your people.
Yeah.
And that's like, what did you do to get here? And it's final, it's final. So I thought that was really interesting. What boss did you face? What boss did you face? I faced Pluto too. It was useless. I got destroyed. It was useless. I was like, just useless.
So far we've only finished against the Hydra and starting on Pluto. So good to know about Pluto over there.
Yeah.
But and this almost goes to one of my complaints again about the game, which is, again, it's the only consistent complaint that goes on. I know Mike touched upon this as well. I think the best variety in the game doesn't come from the heroes, it doesn't come from the units, it doesn't come from the arenas. I think it comes from the bosses.
Yeah.
And the problem is you make me go through 48 mini sessions to get to the most
you don't have to go through 48, but you can. You can spectate. You can fly through it. I know. I heard you say that
too. You can start Act 2 the first week.
Yeah, you can.
I want all my dice level to max. I want every single prowess. I want every single thing along the way. But and I'm not complaining a drop, but it's a drop. But it's I think the bosses are the biggest variety they have in the game. Just going over the sheet, seeing their abilities, seeing what they do, they're the coolest thing. And then the problem is, I feel like it's going to take a whole lot of Hoplomachus, assuming I want to do it the way I'm doing, which I do. It's going to take a whole lot of Hoplomachus to see all that variety. I almost wish the arc had either been different, or going to what Mike said, that's been more impact from the signs to the rest of the experience. I love them. To be very clear, I think they're great. I think they're amazing. I just think that the best degree of variety, to a certain extent, is hidden behind a drop more grind.
Wait, and
to get my review done, in order to get my review done, I had to cheat a little bit. I just took my same party that I used against
the final.
Boss, and just flipped a couple.
I did that.
It's like I wasn't built out for them, so it was harder. But in order to just sample them, because it took so long, I was like, I can't play this many campaigns and get this review out. So let me just plug in play and try out these different parts. But the bosses are great. It just takes it does take a long time to get to that.
I'll just say this. I want to say Pluto's not useless. My battle and my characters just could not handle the insanity. The what you have to pull off even to fight him is just crazy. I was reading the card. I'm like, let's see if I can last like 2 rounds. Let's see it. Anyway, yeah.
He's definitely gonna wreck Josh.
Yeah. He's gonna wreck you. He's gonna wreck you.
Well, what's interesting, Alex, about what you say is that they do have that game both in the past with Rise of Rome, because this boss mechanic is based on the Titans from the second Hoplo set in the original thing. Yep. And I haven't looked too much into Remastered, but I'm assuming they're bringing that mechanic back as one way to play, right? I would assume. So yeah, it is sort of a weird place, Alex, because like the bosses are, I think, the most interesting part of the game. I love the simplicity yet uniqueness and complexity of that roll a crap ton of dice. What are they doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are these colors activating? I think it's a great system. I think it was a great system back when. So I guess in a way, there's a big if. If you buy Hoplomachus Victorum and Hoplomachus Remastered,
that's it.
After you're out $300 or whatever it is, you know,
here we go again.
That's less than KDM. That's less than KDM. But once you buy all of that, then you get the best of both worlds, because you can do the one-off, you can jump right into a boss battle, or you can have this epic.
I almost wish, you play Towns for Tussle, I assume.
Of course.
So I almost wish they had that kind of system with the bosses, where instead of fighting off against the signs along
boss
the way,
runs.
they had boss runs with like different degrees of strength, and then a final one. Because I'd love to see the variety and the experience. And then in the campaign, I could fight off against 4 of them, 2 campaigns, and I've seen them all, and I get to see them all at different phases of how strong they are, how powerful they are. But I think that would be super cool. As it is, though, I think what you said is also compelling, because I certainly have no problem playing with Remastered and diving into them that way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We
got. I make variants. People make variants. I bet if Chip Theory doesn't make it official, somebody's gonna have that rule. It's like this is how you build out your army. This is how much you level up. Go, And because you're right, Boss Rush would be exciting, because you naturally go to 3 different battlefields plus Vesuvius. You naturally see different types of units. Hell, just do all the local units and die, have fun with it.
I actually, you guys stole my idea. You stole my point. But I was going to say, we don't know everything that's going to go into transitioning to the Hoplomachus Revisited, so we don't know everything yet.
Yeah.
Community, I took some community questions, and that was one of the things they had. They haven't revealed all the details of how this stuff is going to work, but I'm assuming, just like with the previous series, the more of it you own, the more you can get out of it as you get all the way to the end. Because basically, you have Hoplomachus Origins right now. And you have, just a whole bunch of stuff to play with. But I'm expecting, when this is all said and done by the end of the year, you're going to have a lot of Hoplomachus to fool around with. A lot of journey. Every one of the characters you have, you flip them over, and those are Hoplomachus chips. So you know that you're ready for that next setup. And this game feels like that part right there. You're right. I think you're totally right. I think this is the climax of the game is the game. It's almost like I just need more Aeon's End. What I'm really saying is I need more bosses. This is what I'm, basically what I'm saying. So that's what I hope for the game. One of the things I think is missing in this, I know they have opportunities that have goals, like things that you have to accomplish, but I would have like not only defeat so-and-so, but complete this, and this. And that may some kind of goal for a campaign goal.
Yeah.
So checklists of some sort. And don't get me wrong, that could happen during it, or you beat a boss a certain way. So that kind of goes back to my point about the boss battler thing. But I was just thinking that'd be kind of cool to have a goal sheet, not just opportunities, because sometimes the opportunities just become, you're like, I don't even care about these things. I just want to get to where I need to get, but then you get one and you see it and you go, oh, that's a prowess one. I need that for my deck. I need to get some, my prowess is unlocked. So I get why they made it, meaty that way and saying no, you got to get some of those things. And in order to get some of those things, you have to do these opportunities, even though they're not maybe as exciting as you want them to be. But it's hey, by the way, I didn't mention this at any point. We didn't mention this at any point. One of the coolest things about this game is when you do spectate, you do have a trade-off. You got the Scion, the Banes that can actually happen, but you get to look at the cards and just take 3 of them and kind of decide which order you want to do them in. That's big. At certain points in the game, it's I just want to be able to pick my poison. I know I got to fight. let me find a card, you know, like that kind of thing. So I think that's it as far as the tactics go. We talked about the journey. We talked about the tactics. So you know the gameplay, how we feel about the bosses. Here it is. The final score, final thoughts. Let's start with Liz.
Oh, why are we going to start with me?
Oh, yeah.
I'm having a hard time giving this a score, basically because, okay, I think this game is great. I think it's going to be better. Like, I think about, you know, the base box of Too Many Bones, which was really good, right? But now Too Many Bones is great. So I feel like game is going to mature a bit. It's going to grow a bit.
Yes.
If I could give halves, I might give it 8.5. I'm like between an 8 and a 9.
Okay. We need to commit on the 8 or a 9.
Now.
Okay. What you got, Alex?
For me, it's a straight up 9 out of 10. I love the game. I think it's amazing. The only reason it's not a 10 out of 10 is that variety aspect. I wish some aspects of it were drop less samey. To me, Too Many Bones is my favorite Chip 3 game and one of my favorite games of all time. Cloudspire is moving that direction, but I'm still new to it. I'm still learning the systems, and I'm wondering where it'll settle. And Hoplomachus started off being one that I thought might rival Too Many Bones or even exceed it, just because of how accessible it is, how fun it was. And then suddenly, 40 missions later, it's a little bit samey comparatively speaking, and it's more accessible. So there is that trade-off. But that's the only thing holding it back from a 10 out of 10 for me. I love the system. I love the engine. I love the experience. I'm constantly eager to dive back in. Like you, Jeremy, the first 2 nights of this game was just like staying up later than I should, playing one more, just one more, just one more. The only thing against it is that slight lack of variety, but overall, an amazing game, a 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. What you got, Mike?
Yeah, I guess I'll go. I don't really do ratings. You push me out of my comfort zone.
Yes, I do. I do it every time. That's why I bring you back.
I'll give it an 8.
Okay.
But for reference, for those who don't know how my mind works, my top game of all time is Arkham Horror, the card game, the LCG.
Unfortunate.
That's not a 10. Like I don't have any 10s. I've never played a game that I would say is a straight up 10 out of 10 perfect game. So 8 is pretty damn good. One thing I'll say, because I think we have said a lot near the end here about how much the game can grow and like looking at Too Many Bones and all of that. But I will say personally, not speaking for anybody else, this is a $150 game. Yeah. And I'm very happy with the product I have. Now, they sent me one. I can't actually speak from a place of having dropped that amount of cash on it. But I'm not like looking at this and like, well, this game's kind of okay right now, but it'll be good later. Like if they never make it would be a little bit of a missed opportunity, but it'd still be a heck of a lot of fun, and I'd play the heck out of it over and over again. So, yeah, it's an 8, but it's a very positive 8. I still really enjoy this one. And yeah, I'd like them to go more places, but it's an experience, man. And the one thing nobody mentioned, so I just got to bring it in. I'm a big fan of the old XCOM video games. Yeah, going all the way back to like Enemy Unknown, like way back in the day. But even like especially those newer like 3D Tactics ones. And I got the exact same feeling here sometimes. I was like, yeah, my team is popping. They got it. And then I go to that one battle, and half of them die. And now I got like this, I'm thinking of XCOM. I got like this rookie sniper who can't even like land a headshot. And now I got to like get my shotguns in there. Like, what? So,
there's nothing worse than being in Act 3 with 4 neutral people.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
It's like,
and the
what?
fun thing is, like, in that ramp up, and again, it sounds like you all didn't like play too much of like Act 4 maybe. Like that's where the game was like at its best for me. Yeah. Because every battle was crazy combinations of units, right. And when I would like lose so many people, because it happens, and I would use a blessing because I'm playing on easy mode because I can't hack it otherwise, and I would get like 5 or 6 new units, they'd be like insane. I'd be like, how do I even make this work? So like, it's cool. I'm really into this one for sure.
Actually, I don't like to give. I've actually quit giving ratings myself, but if you want to go on price, so yes, we were given review copies. If somebody took my review copy away, I would immediitely go buy another one. Mm-hmm. I would go.
That's a good side.
That's where I'm at with it. How's that?
So for me, I'm just gonna say outright, this is a 9 for me. This is right below Too Many Bones for me. It is right below Too Many Bones as far as their roster goes. Now we getting all the way up there. We gotta talk. I just did my top 10 on MVM. That's a long way to go, bro. You got a long way to go. But I like this journey. I like the journey. I made a section called The Journey for a reason. I like the grind. I do like the variance in events. I like that there's a lot of choice on to dodge them and I also like the fact that I can kind of, on some cards, I can pick them. I like the fact that there's a penalty for doing that too much. I like that it keeps me honest. It's like, hey, you can't just willy-nilly walk around here and be choosy all the time. You got time. You got to do it in a certain amount of time, and I'm going to keep putting terrible things in your bag, and you're going to have to use those blessings that I gave you to get rid of it. And by the time you get to the boss, you are either scared out of your mind that you're going to get mollywopped, or you feel so strong. You feel like a hero. You got this baller squad of local troops from across the lands, and you're ready to go. And like, that feeling I've done almost twice right now. I'm about 3/4 of the way through a second one here, and I played a couple of the bosses just for the heck of it. It feels epic, and that's all I can ask from a solo board game. This game does have the epic ramp to it. What I would like to see in the future, we kind of talked about it. Like I said, boss runs, more abilities. But the thing is the feedback we're giving. For a new Chip Theory person, I would say, I just want you to know this is a solid game, and I feel like the 150. I can't tell you to buy a $150 game. I cannot. But I feel like if I was the buyer person, I would buy it. Don't pawn your jewelry. Pay your rent on time. Pay your electricity bills first. Okay. But I feel like people need to know that like this is a premium product, and I can't tell people what to do with their money, but this is one that I would just chuck the money at. They told me they were going to send me a review copy, so I'm just like right there with you. But I feel like for Chip Theory fans that had Hoplomachus, they know what's coming. So this is a very easy purchase, and you can comfortably know they didn't mess this up. There's nothing really wrong with it. They're going to add more to it. And they listen to your feedback, which makes the investment that this game is even stronger. And that remains true for all their games. Even in Cloud Spire, they had issues. You know what they did? They created a whole pack specifically to address this in the next one. It's like they listen to all that feedback and they get better. The games get stronger. They get tighter. They get more complicated or more easy because they realize things are out of balance. So, without a doubt, I am impressed with this product. I'm going to keep playing. It's right behind here. Right behind here, I'm going to play some more. Not just for review. I'm going to play for fun. Okay. That's pretty much how we all feel about Hoplomachus Victorum. Do you want to tier this a little bit? Do you want to tier it a little bit? Where is it at? No. We're not going to do all that. We'll be here forever. Some of us have already expressed their thoughts here. Folks, I'd like to thank you guys for your time, and we want to make sure that we can find you in certain spots. Where can we find you, Mike?
So we got the One Stop Co-op Shop main YouTube channel, a streaming channel, and podcast. We got lots of great people on there. It's not just me. Jason Perez from formerly Every Night Is Game Night and Dice Tower. Colin, who started everything off. Peter and Steve doing the streaming channel and the podcast. Barrett also at Meet Me at the Table. So come check out our YouTube channel, podcast. We have a Discord, Facebook, all the standard stuff.
Alex.
You can find me over at Board Game Co. Primarily the YouTube channel Board Game Co. You'll find me talking about games, playing games, doing all that stuff. And I'm actually starting to do more campaign games, including some Hoplomachus over on Twitch, Camp Co-op, which I dive into a lot of Gloomhaven, diving into roleplay adventures soon. Starting to let my campaigns actually get played this way.
I love that about you. I love that you're getting back. I'm getting back on my campaign stuff too, man. My top 10 got me back ignited for these big campaign games. Liz.
Can be found anywhere online is Beyond Solitaire. I got a YouTube channel. I got a podcast. If you want to listen to really nerdy discussions about board gaming and like history and like education.
Great discussions, Liz.
It's the podcast is really my pride and joy, but all my game reviews and playthroughs are on my channel as well, which I also really enjoy.
And you cover war games too. You and Mike both cover war games. So if you're into that type of stuff as well, they have that on there because that's a hole in my game. I do not cover war games.
All right,
we can teach you some good ones.
Context of this game, we're just not going to go there. But if you want actual historical games, yes, I also love that.
Wait, you're saying that the historical Romans didn't fight Hydras?
There you go.
Is that world map? Is that not the real map, Liz? That's what the globe looks like.
I don't know why they had to drag my man Pliny the Elder into this. Okay.
All right, folks. Thank you About to nerd out. Thank you so much for your time, party people. Thank you for watching us today. It's a long review that hopefully we informed you about the game and helped you make a solid decision on whether Hoplomachus Victorum is for you. And with that, party people, you take care. You have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us on MVM.